Hey everyone, welcome back to Tiny Mechanisms Around the World. I'm someone who's completely obsessed with little things, those tiny everyday details we all see but rarely stop to understand. Today we're looking at a weird cross-continental money machine, the Chinese mitten crab, also called the hairy crab. In Austria and much of Europe, fishermen catch them and throw them away or kill them as pests. But the same crabs are shipped to China, where they sell for serious money as a luxury autumn delicacy. How does this work? Let's uncover the mechanism. The Chinese mitten crab, scientifically known as Ariochare sinensis, is native to the coastal rivers and estuaries of East Asia, particularly China, Korea, and Japan. What makes this crab instantly recognizable is its distinctive pair of hairy, mitten-like claws covered in dense brown bristles. That's exactly why people call it the hairy crab or mitten crab. This creature has a fascinating but destructive journey. In the early 20th century, around 1912, a few of these crabs somehow hitched a ride to Europe. Scientists believe they arrived hidden in the ballast water of cargo ships, the water ships take on for stability that often contains larvae or small marine life. The first confirmed sighting was in Germany near the port of Bremen. From that single entry point, the hairy crab began its slow but unstoppable invasion. It spread through Europe's vast network of rivers and man-made canals. It reached the Netherlands, Belgium, France, and eventually made its way into Austria's famous Danube river system. Because it can travel both in fresh water and slightly salty water, and because females can produce up to 1 million eggs in one go, it spread rapidly across the continent. Today, the Chinese mitten crab is officially listed as one of the 100 worst invasive alien species in the world by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN. In the European Union, it is strictly regulated. Governments and environmental agencies spend millions of euros every year trying to control its population because these crabs burrow deep into riverbanks, damage flood defenses, and clog water pipes and intake systems for power plants. They also outcompete native fish and crab species for food and habitat. To local fishermen and river managers in Austria and across Europe, the hairy crab is seen as a serious ecological pest, something to be caught and destroyed, not eaten. And that's exactly what creates the fascinating economic twist we're going to explore in this episode. Here's exactly how this tiny mechanism works. Here's where the story gets really interesting. The Chinese mitten crab is what biologists call catadromous. That means it spends most of its adult life in freshwater rivers and lakes. But when it's time to reproduce, it migrates long distances downstream to brackish or saltwater areas near the sea to breed. After the larvae hatch, they drift back upstream and start the cycle all over again. This unique life cycle helped them spread like wildfire once they arrived in Europe. They are incredibly hardy travelers. They can walk across land for short distances, climb vertical surfaces, and survive in many different water conditions. In Europe, they burrow aggressively into riverbanks and dikes to create hiding spots. These burrows weaken flood defenses, cause erosion, and can even lead to collapsing banks. They also clog industrial water intake pipes, damage fishing nets, and disrupt hydroelectric power stations. On top of that, they compete fiercely with native European species for food and habitat. Because they have almost no natural predators in Europe, their populations explode in some rivers. The economic damage is significant. Governments and river authorities across Europe spend millions of euros every year just trying to control them through trapping, poisoning programs, and physical barriers. But here's the cultural part that creates the perfect economic mismatch. Europeans have almost zero tradition of eating freshwater crabs. In many European countries, crabs are usually associated with saltwater species like the brown crab or king crab. Freshwater crabs are simply not part of the local cuisine. Most people in Austria, Germany, or France look at a hairy crab and see an invasive pest, not dinner. Some locals also hesitate because of concerns about possible parasites or heavy metals the crabs might accumulate from polluted rivers. As a result, the vast majority of hairy crabs caught in Europe are either thrown away, destroyed as part of official control programs, or left to rot on the riverbank. They are treated as a problem to be eliminated, not a resource to be harvested. Now here's where the real magic and the money happens. Fishermen in Austria, Germany, the Netherlands, and parts of the United Kingdom used to catch these hairy crabs as unwanted bycatch while fishing for eels, perch, or carp. In the past, they had zero economic value. The crabs were simply thrown back into the river, destroyed, or left to rot on the riverbank because no one in Europe wanted them. They were literally a costly nuisance that cost time and fuel to deal with. But over the last 10-15 years, smart operators spotted the opportunity. Instead of throwing the crabs away, they now collect them carefully, keep them alive in aerated tanks, and export them, either live or flash frozen, directly to China. So what changed? Why is China willing to pay good money for a crab that Europeans treat as biological waste? In China, the hairy crab is a famous seasonal autumn delicacy, especially in Shanghai, Suzhou, and Beijing. The most prized part is the rich, creamy gonads. Diners steam the whole crab with ginger and black vinegar and treat it like a luxury item. A single good-sized hairy crab can sell in a mid-range restaurant for 100 to 300 yen. In upscale restaurants or for premium branded crabs, one crab can easily cost 400 to 600 yuan or more, sometimes as much as a nice steak dinner. Now let's talk real numbers for the European side. Fishermen and small exporters can now sell these crabs for roughly $3 to $8 per kilogram. That might not sound like a fortune, but remember, previously it was $0. A fisherman who catches 200 to 500 kilo during the autumn migration season can suddenly turn a previous loss or zero revenue into $600 to $4,000 in extra income for the season. Larger operations or those with good supply chains can make several thousand euros per year from what used to be worthless bycatch. The mathematics is simple but powerful. 1 kilogram usually equals 5 to 7 adult crabs. If those crabs are sold in China for an average of 200 yuan each, the final retail value in restaurants can reach 1,400 yuan per kilogram. Even after shipping, middlemen, and processing costs, there is still plenty of margin for European fishermen and exporters to make money. This creates one of the most beautiful and ironic economic loops you'll ever see. In Europe, governments and river authorities still spend millions of euros every year trying to control the hairy crab as an invasive pest. In China, consumers happily pay premium prices for the exact same crab as a luxury autumn treat. In the middle, clever fishermen, exporters, and middlemen quietly turn what was previously a costly nuisance into a small but profitable export business. What used to be an expensive environmental problem has quietly become a modest but real income stream for some European fishermen during the autumn season. What looks like a random ecological accident is actually a smart international mechanism. One country's expensive pest becomes another country's expensive dinner. Fishermen turn a problem into profit simply by putting the crabs on a plane or ship to China. So next time you hear about hairy crabs in Austrian rivers, remember, they're not just invaders. They're a tiny but very real cross-border money machine. What do you think? Should more European countries start exporting these crabs instead of just killing them? If you enjoyed this episode of Tiny Mechanisms Around the World, please hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Drop a comment with the next tiny thing or country you want explained. See you tomorrow for another small mechanism that will change how you see the world. Take care.